Enough of men saying that they're really worried about false accusations.
Oh, please do tell.
False accusations only account for 2% of all reported cases.
Yeah, and on the other end of the argument, you have the fact that only 2% of reported cases lead to conviction. People like you often use that as an argument to say that 90% of men who commit these crimes get away with it, when that's not what these stats suggest. 2% are proven innocent beyond a shadow of a doubt. 2% are found guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. The other 96% who are found not guilty may have done it, they may not have. We have no way of knowing for sure. But the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle.
Hear about the other 98% of cases that are actual SA or grade.
Again, only 2% conviction rate for these types of crimes on average. But I already broke that down for you. I just don't want you pretending like I didn't factor in the rest of your video.
This doesn't even include all the unreported cases.
Oh, you mean the cases that are significantly more likely to be false and spread around for defamatory purposes. You know, because those who make these type of false accusations don't want it to be investigated by, let's say, a detective or cross-examined by a defense attorney. Something that would publicly and officially on court records expose that this woman is full of BS and is making stuff up. Now, that doesn't mean that every woman who isn't reporting is lying, but the majority of women who are lying don't report.
Statistically speaking, you're more likely to be raped by another man than to be falsely accused by a woman.
Not only are you definitely false, but this is blatantly homophobic. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not is irrelevant. I know. It's straight men who are raping other... No, it doesn't. It makes no sense whatsoever. That's just something y'all made up to explain away the blatant homophobic nature of this type of rhetoric. That's like trying to tell me that NAMBLA aren't really homosexual, and it's quite literally North American Man-Boy Love Association, which was started by a socialist gay rights advocate named David Thorstead. And no, I'm not trying to imply that all homosexual men are like this. I'm just making a point against this blatantly homophobic nonsense that this individual is spewing. I am completely aware that it is unreasonable and unfair to generalize an entire group of people by a few disgusting individuals. But more importantly, I've been assaulted multiple times over my life, and only once was I assaulted by another man. You know what happened? I punched his teeth down his throat. You know what I can do when women put their hands on me? Nothing. Anything I do is going to come back to bite me one way or another. I have lost count of the number of times women have assaulted me, which is something we don't talk enough about because men come forward about this type of stuff. They're shamed for it, which is why statistics about female on male assault are completely underreported and heavily skewed. Even more so than statistics about male on female assault, which is something people like this never want to discuss.
People who are concerned with false accusations are either grapists or grape apologists.
That statement is nothing but pure circular reasoning, which means that it is a logical fallacy in which the statement is not supported by any evidence other than the claim itself. I'm not sure who all needs to hear this, but just because something sounds catchy doesn't mean it's true. For example, the majority of men will immediately hear the phrase, if she's old enough to bleed, she's old enough to breed, and immediately start thinking about throwing that individual in a wood chipper. But you'll never want to give men credit for doing the right thing. You just want to generalize all of us by the worst individuals possible. Anyway, I digress. I'll touch on that later on in the video.
To be alone in a room with a woman because you think that you're going to be falsely accused, you might be a grapist.
Like I said, just because it's catchy doesn't mean it's true, and this is yet again another example of pure circular reason. Like serious, what kind of backwards ass logic is this? I'll tell you what it is. It's victim shaming. That's what it is. Usually when a guy is genuinely terrified to be alone with a woman in a room, it's probably because they have been falsely accused in the past. And men just like this guy have acted as the personal war dog for the little drama queen stirring nonsense up. At the end of the day, guys like this do not actually care about victims of SA. There are multiple guys all over this app who make a lot of content going after predators. I named one earlier on in this video. JD DeLay has done a fantastic job going after and outing predators on this very app, left and right, and publicly exposing them. But more importantly, unlike guys like this, JD goes out of his way to do his due diligence and make sure he has his facts straight before he slanders an innocent man. In fact, while he has gone after predators left and right on this app, he has also come to the defense of multiple men who were being falsely accused when he did his research. But men like this guy do not actually care about helping women and protecting them from predatory men. He's pandering to the lowest common denominator for likes and attention, all at the same time while spreading fear, hate, and atrocity propaganda against men. He doesn't care that he's a man too, as long as he's getting something out of it in return. If anything, guys like this are the real people you need to look out for. Like seriously, how many male feminists have already been exposed for predatory behavior on this app alone? Now ladies, I don't make this type of content to invalidate your trauma, but let's go ahead and break down the math here. There is about 166 million men in the US. There are less than 800,000 individuals on the National Registry. So let's say all of those individuals are men and go ahead and triple it. That's still less than 1% of the overall male population. And like I explained earlier in my video, I too am a victim of this type of thing, but mostly from women. See, men might have the ability to defend themselves, but they certainly do not have the privilege to do so. If I use any level of physical force, no matter how minimal, to protect myself from an aggressive woman, there's always the chance she's going to hit the ground whining and crying, and everybody in the vicinity is going to treat me like I'm the bad guy. Women do this type of stuff all the time, knowing in full confidence that they are socially and legally immune to the charges and the consequences that come with it. 1 out of 3 states in the US legally cannot even charge a woman with rape when she assaults a man like this. And there are multiple cases of grown women grooming and molesting teenage boys and suing them for child support once they turn of age. The first time I was assaulted, I was in preschool. I went from being the guy who got into girls early and had little pretend weddings on the playground to being the guy who wanted nothing to do with girls because my pre-K teachers took it as a go-ahead to violate my boundaries left and right. They did everything but outright molest me. So trust me, ladies, there are way more guys out there who understand your trauma, and they are dealing with it in silence. And even if you are not guilty of this behavior, you probably have a friend who is. And for every woman who doesn't report, there are about 10 men who also aren't reporting. And one of the best things you can do to help yourself and men like me is to open the door to this conversation instead of getting defensive. And most of all, stop downplaying it when we try to explain this stuff to you. Y'all keep saying y'all want men to be more open about their emotions, but every time we try to open up, y'all turn it into an argument because for some reason y'all have been conditioned to believe that you have to be the victim by default in every situation, or you have to have it worse than men in every situation. This isn't a competition. There are men and women who suffer from trauma from this type of behavior from men and women alike. We can address it together without being enemies. Please stop listening to guys like this. They are not your friends. They are just profiting off of your trauma.